Hi, everybody. Welcome to Senior Topics. I'm June Edwards, and today's date is April 19. What is this? 2021. I have to figure out what year it is, okay? And we have two main topics, but first we're going to go through our calendar themes and then we'll get to the two main topics, okay? So here we go. This is for the third week of April, and I hope you're all doing well. And spring is definitely here, although in some of our northeastern states, there's like 7 feet of snow and people are still housebound. But in the last couple days, we've had 90+ degree weather, and we're doing great. That's why we're all here in Southern California. So I want to look at the 18th of April, and that was the date of Paul Revere's famous ride in 1775 to warn everybody that the Redcoats were coming to steal their secretly stored up weaponry. They were ready to revolt against the British Empire. Now, on that same night, other people who also was 6-year-old girl named Sybil Ludington, who rode twice as far as Paul Revere and was accosted by a man who tried to pull her off the horse to molest her. And she started beating him with a stick and got away and kept riding through the night. And her father had sent her because the British were watching her father. He was a wanted man. He was an activist with the American colonists. So he had no choice but to send his 16-year-old daughter out on that hazardous trip. Another thing from another event from April 18th, the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. And there are some very old movies that were made about that period. It is also Pet Owners Day, and we have had a Love Your Pet Day not too long ago where we covered a lot of information about pets. The next day, April 19th, was when the American Revolutionary War actually began in 1775. And of course, it led to us getting our independence and becoming our own country. It is also known as Bicycle Day and Humorous Day. April 20th is when the scientists, husband and wife team, Pierre and Marie Curie, isolated radium in 1902, and radium has been used in many, many different medical applications and other applications as well, some peaceful, some for war. April 21st is Administrative Professionals or Secretaries Day. And so that's when we honor the secretaries. It's also Kindergarten Day. April 22nd is Earth Day, started in 1970. And it is also Take Your Daughter or Your Son to Work Day. Well, a lot of parents are still working from home, so the kids have had more than ample opportunity to see just what it is that their parents do all day long. April 23, a home run day. That's when Hank Aaron hit his first home run in 1954, one of our baseball greats. And I heard that in the Dodger game recently, it went into extra innings and was a nail biter all the way till the end of the game. April 23 is also National Picnic Day, and it is the date for William Shakespeare's birth and William Shakespeare's death. April 24th, Library of Congress was established in 1800, and we honor our veterinarians on that day as well. So let's go ahead and get to it. Man, April's a very, very eventful month. Lots always going on, and a lot for your different activity directors too. Okay, there's two events that I want to talk about today. The first one is Earth Day. Now, Earth Day was started in 1970, and we're talking 50 years ago. Can you believe it? It's been 50 years. I want to show you a picture I think's pretty. This shows that we have the world in our hands. Well, I'm not so sure that's true. It's a pretty big planet out there, but there are some things we can do to try and be a little bit responsible for man's part in living on the earth. In the 1970s, there was unrestrained pollution. The skies were a yellow gray. There was lots of respiratory illnesses, and we didn't have the regulations that we have today. Actually, the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, the EPA, was birthed because of Earth Day, and people wanted to start doing things to clean up the environment. Today, we're one of the top countries in the world that has cleaned up, and even in the last 5 years, the amount of pollution from our energy sources is still continuing to go down. Who is the worst polluter? Well, there's two of them. There's China, which has no restrictions whatsoever by anybody, including the Paris Accords, and there's India. And they're not slowing down at all with their pollution, not yet. But Earth Day is celebrated in many other countries. Some of the countries, like Australia and New Zealand, celebrate during the vernal equinox, or the first day of spring in March. And one of the things they do is they turn off the electricity for 1 hour a day. Now, what time of day they turn it off? It's probably a time when people are asleep. I think you need electricity just about all the time. Okay, so what is Earth Day? Well, Earth Day is the nominated day that people come together to share appreciation for our beautiful planet and its many colors of blues and greens and browns and grays, and our environment. It's a time to consider how to cut back on pollution, how to conserve our natural resources and preserve our oceans and our jungles and as much of the land as we can, and take actions to improve. And one of the ways we do this is through our educational programs, trying to get kids to take responsibility for their school playgrounds and not trash or litter the school grounds as much as they have been. Earth Day is celebrated in our country on April 22nd. The first day was April 22nd, 1970. And on that first Earth Day, over 20 million Americans joined together for environmental conventions and demonstrations. Now, the creation of Earth Day was formed by three key people: a peace activist by the name of John McConnell, U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson, and chief organizer Dennis Hayes, who was a student from Harvard University in Massachusetts. John McConnell first proposed the holiday to celebrate Earth's splendor and to encourage the advancement of peace. John McConnell created the Earth Day Proclamation, and the United Nations got on board in February of the following year, 1971. U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson from Wisconsin proposed the bill to the U.S. Congress and officially designated April 22nd as Earth Day. And the Earth Day Proclamation has the responsibilities that we need to follow to help conserve our planet and make it a cleaner place. Many, many international dignitaries have signed on to this, and over 5,000 worldwide environmental groups in 2014 participated in all kinds of activities to spread the message and raise awareness of conservation. We've come a long way since 1970, although I think we could still do a lot more with recycling. Earth Day is celebrated in many cities around the world by the ringing of peace bells. The United Nations Peace Bell has been rung annually on the first day of spring since 1971. Peace bells are also rung in Vienna, Geneva, and Berlin. And there is a flag which has a dark blue background and a picture taken by NASA, which stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration, taken by a NASA astronaut. And it's the picture of the globe of the world. We also have an official stamp. This is when stamps were 33 cents. Now they're like 50, 51 cents for one letter, which is why a lot of people email today. I haven't seen what the stamp is for, looks like for this year's Earth Day. And I don't know that there's much celebrating going on with the COVID restrictions. We are down to the yellow zone now in our own state. When we get to the green zone, then everything will be wide open. And of course, we're all looking forward to that day. So I hope that you can do something, pick up your trash, try to recycle in your facility, and do whatever you can, to promote peace and peaceful relations between the other residents and you. What else can I tell you about Earth Day? Well, there have been 10,000 Earth Day events around the world in 2014. And NASA asked people to send in pictures of nature. And they built something called a mosaic image of Earth, a new blue marble, built bit by bit with photos submitted from all over the world of mountains, parks, rivers, lakes, and our beautiful blue sky. One sad thing I need to tell you is that every year there is something like 16 billion pieces of trash, especially plastic, dumped into the ocean from all over the world. And it kills more than 1 million sea animals every year. So that's kind of a tragedy. I wanted to read you a couple poems that goes along with Earth Day and with spring. Here's one called I'm Glad the Sky is Painted Blue, and the author is anonymous. I'm glad the sky is painted blue and the earth is painted green, with such a lot of nice fresh air all sandwiched in between. Here's another one called The Wind Song. And boy, it's been windy today. I sit by the window and watch the breeze tingle the leaves on all the trees. I sit by the window and hear the wind sing, carrying spring, making air ring. Wind, wind, blow me a song. Toss me a ship from the sea. Fling me a willow tree, tall and strong. Whirl the world closer to me. I love that. One more, since April is Poetry Month. This is called When Spring Came, and it is a Tlingit Indian song that's been translated into English. When spring came, leaves grew with a green, fresh feeling, and the warmth of the sun was beginning to be felt, and the animals of the earth awoke, breathing the fresh new smell of life all over again. It's like the wind gently blowing, giving love to everything before it moves on, yet always returning. Okay. So that's beautiful, and it's fun to see the baby animals that come out in the spring. Now, I have one other topic that I wanted to go into a little bit of detail on. April 23rd is pretty much agreed on by most scholars as the birth of William Shakespeare. What's really interesting is that he also died on April 23rd in 1616 at the age of 52, and it was a pretty sudden death because just the week or so before, he'd had a portrait drawn and he was said to be in good health. Nobody really knows exactly what he died from, but there were a lot of plagues circulating around during the life of William Shakespeare, so it could have been related to one of those. Who knows? William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and also the world's greatest playwright. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon. A bard is a storyteller. His works include collaborations with others. He has 39 plays, 154 sonnets, 3 long narrative poems, and a few other verses. His plays have been translated into every major living language and are performed more often than those of any other playwright. They also continue to be studied even today and reinterpreted. Shakespeare was born and raised in Stratford upon Avon, Warwickshire, in England. You can see Anne Hathaway's cottage. That was the cottage that his wife resided in. At the age of 18, he married Anne Hathaway, who was 26 and 3 months pregnant. 6 months later, she had their first daughter, Susanna. 3 years after that, she had twins, a boy, Hamnet, and Judith. Unfortunately, the boy, Hamnet, died at the age of 11, and we don't know how. Sometime between 1585 and 1592, Shakespeare began a successful career in London as an actor, a writer, and part-time owner of a playing company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. Later, it was known as the King's Men. After Elizabeth I died and King James I succeeded her, he adopted the group, and that's when it became known as the King's Men. At around age 49 in 1613, he retired to Stratford and died there 3 years later. There's not very many records of his private life. So there's a lot of speculation about him. We do have the Chandos portrait, which is in the National Portrait Gallery in London. This is said to be the closest likeness of what he looked like. He produced most of his known works between 1589 and 1613. Now, his early plays were mostly comedies and histories and regarded as some of the best work ever produced. Then he wrote mainly tragedies until 1608. Such famous titles, maybe you studied them in high school or college, things like Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. In the last phase of his life, he wrote something called tragicomedies, also known as romances. And that's when he did more collaborating with other playwrights. Many of his plays were published in editions during his lifetime, although he was not that well regarded until after his death. 2 fellow actors and friends of him, John Hammondges and Henry Condell, published a more definitive text known as the First Folio after his death. And that included all but two of his plays. And that has a preface in it by Johnson where he says that Shakespeare is, quote, not of one age, but for all time, end of quote. So, he was the third of 8 children. He was the oldest surviving son. His own son did not survive, and his line died out. Even his daughters, they had some boys, but those boys died also. He had to get married in haste instead of allowing the marriage banns to be read 3 times, which was usual. He only read them once, so it was kind of a quick marriage. And he's not mentioned after the birth of the twins again until he's mentioned as part of the London theater scene in 1592. There are a few records that allude to a Shakespeare, but remember the name Shakespeare was quite common in those years. He supposedly minded the horses of theater patrons in London. He could have been a country schoolmaster. He was probably employed as a schoolmaster by Alexander Houghton of Lancashire. And we're not really sure, though. A lot of it is speculation. We do know that several of his plays were being performed on the London stage by 1592. And Shakespeare loved to act, and he acted in a lot of the plays. When he was older, he usually played the part of the king in the plays. In 1599, there was a partnership of members of his company, and they built their own theater on the south bank of the River Thames, and they named it the Globes. And of course, the Globes burned down later. It's been rebuilt several times, but you can go by and see it and take tours of it once the COVID-19 restrictions have been lifted. Shakespeare's property purchases and investments showed he was a smart businessman, and owning the company made him a very wealthy man. In 1597, he bought the second largest house in Stratford called the New Place. And in 1605, he invested in a share of the parish tithes in Stratford. So he divided his time between London and Stratford. We think he's had several affairs during his life, that he wasn't always faithful to Anne Hathaway. I think that's why they call it Anne Hathaway's cottage. And I took a tour of that. They have many, many beautiful flowers in there, lavender, primroses, all the flowers mentioned in his many varied writings. He died on April 23rd, 1616, at the age of 52. He died within a month of signing his will. And at the beginning of the document, he's describing himself as being, quote, in perfect health. No contemporary source explains how or why he died. About 50 years later, John Ward, the vicar of Stratford, wrote in a notebook, Shakespeare, Drayton, and Ben Jonson had a merry meeting, and it seems drank too hard, for Shakespeare died of a fever there contracted. Well, that could have happened. And some of his best writing was also done while he was stuck in quarantine during some of the numerous plagues that inhabited the whole London area. Shakespeare bequeathed the bulk of his large estate to his oldest daughter, Suzanne, and that she pass it down intact to the first son of her body. Now, she and her husband had 3 children, but they all died without ever getting married. The Halls, that's other child, had one child, Elizabeth, who married twice but died without children in 1670, and that ended Shakespeare's direct line. I want to tell you some interesting facts. We could talk about the plays and the poetry and go on and on. But since this is not a writing class, I'm not going to do that. But I did want to tell you there are some very unusual facts about Shakespeare. One of them is that when they were renovating his tomb, and he is buried within a church with next to his wife, there's also a monument to him at the Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. At his actual tomb, he put a curse on his epitaph. And so people have never disturbed his bones. There's a curse on you if you disturb his bones. So even in the most recent renovations about 40 years ago, nobody disturbed his bones. They were very, very careful about construction and they kept their hands off his bones. Well, I just find that fascinating, and I hope you do too. There's other facts about Shakespeare too. Um, he had 3 kids. We know that. Susanna, Hamnet, not Hamlet, but Hamnet, and Judith. We know that Shakespeare's father made gloves for a living. We know Shakespeare was born and died on April 23rd. We know he married a woman 8 years older than him, and he had 7 siblings himself, 3 kids himself. He moved to London as a young man. He was an actor as well as a writer. He became very wealthy with a large property portfolio, and he was not only a brilliant playwright, but a brilliant businessman. So he took a share in the company's profits and earned a fee for each play that he wrote. And he also loved to act. The more boisterous, the better. Also, I wanted to tell you that Shakespeare performed before both Queen Elizabeth I and King James I. King James was such an enthusiastic patron. They did something like 39 plays before both the Queen and then the King later. And the King made the actors of Shakespeare's company grooms of chamber, in response to which Shakespeare changed the company's name from the Lord Chamberlain's men to the King's men. There's definitely a mutual admiration society. And one more thing I wanted to show you, Shakespeare had his own family coat of arms. So he must have been made an honorary knight. And there it is. You can see the colors too. Part of Shakespeare's family was Protestant and part was Catholic. And there was no such thing in his day as a copyright. So there was all kinds of thriving trade in copying the plays. The actors got their lines only once the play was in progress, when somebody backstage would cue them or whisper them to the person shortly before he was supposed to deliver them. So nobody could steal the play. There were waves of plague that closed all the theaters between 1592 and 1594. Since there was no demand for plays during this time, Shakespeare began to write poetry and completed his first batch of sonnets in 1593 at the age of 29. And that's about what I'm going to share with you today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week. Try to beat the heat. Try to stay out of trouble. I know we seniors like to live our days as if there's no tomorrow. So I am hoping that we can get together by this fall. I really am looking forward to seeing you in person. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.